How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Hello, ghouls! I am Max Booth, and you are listening to a brand new episode of Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, an undead host, and on today's episode of the program, I am talking to E.M. Roy about her debut novel, Let the Woods Keep Ill Bodies, out right now from Ghoulish Books. So, obvious disclaimer, I have published this novel. I am the one who published it, and I am, I'm proud of it. I love this novel. It's been a long time coming. It's Ellie's debut book, and I couldn't be more honored to be publishing it. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you check it out after listening to this episode if you haven't already read it. It's out now. It came out in October because we believe it's probably like the perfect spooky season read. It takes place in autumn in a small town in New England. Cryptids, vanishings, othervilious, mysterious elements. You know the drill. I'm talking to Ellie E.M. Roy today about small towns because the book is set in a small town. It has big small town vibes. We also talk about other things as well, like dogs. Do you like small towns? Do you like dogs? Then you will probably gonna like this episode. I should also mention there is a video component to this. If you want to watch our faces as we speak, that's available only on Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/ghoulish-books, you can watch the video as well as listen in. You can maybe mute it if you only want to watch it. But that I don't like the idea of that. Don't do that. You can't mute the video. You must listen to the audio as you watch. You will be put on some type of list. You'll be put on the Ghoulish list. And believe me, this is not a list you want to be on. Anything else? Yeah, if you live locally, if you live in Central Texas, consider stopping down at the bookshop, at the Ghoulish Books bookshop on October 28th, which is a Saturday. 8 p.m. on the 28th, we will be screening a free spooky movie at the bookshop at 8 p.m. So stop on down and watch a movie with us. And if you live close to Austin, we will be doing The Ghoulish Show, which is a monthly comedy show I host at Radio Coffee and Beer in Austin, Texas. This is going to be happening on Halloween night, folks. Tuesday, October 31st, 8 p.m. at Radio Coffee in Austin. It's going to be a fun time. It's a free event. Believe in doing a costume contest. So if you want to come dressed in a spooky costume, you might win a fun prize. All right, I think that's it. Go by, let the woods keep ill bodies, and enjoy this interview I did with E.M. Roy. Okay, it's happening. It's recording, and there's no going back now. Welcome to the show, Ellie.
Thank you.
Just published your debut book, and this is the first time we're talking.
Yeah.
That's how publishing works, I think.
Right.
I don't know. I think like big companies, they have a lot of like, come on down to the city and we'll buy you lunch and we'll talk about this over cigar smoke. But
it is very performative. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have that kind of budget. We don't live in the city. I can't afford cigars.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you detect like a vibration sound right now at all?
Vibration sound? No, I don't
Yeah.
hear anything.
Okay. So I haven't been to the bookshop on a Sunday yet, and right next to a giant like righteous gemstone type of mega trilch,
Mhm.
and it is just going off. It is
Oh
so
no.
I
Oh,
don't
it's
know.
Sunday, right?
Yeah,
God.
it's a lazy
Oh,
Sunday,
it is a lazy
except
Sunday.
for this trilch, which is just like
Right.
I walked outside and the bass was so loud, and I walked back into the shop and I felt like everything was shaking.
Are they having a rave in there? Like, what are
I
they?
hope so. I don't know. I've
Yeah.
never been here on a Sunday at 9 a.m. It's really surprising.
Yeah.
So if you don't detect anything, I assume it's fine then. And even
I
if
don't
it
hear
did,
anything.
I mean,
It's
it adds
ambiance.
to it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You live in a small town?
I do. Yes. Cumberland, Maine,
Oh,
hometown.
you just doxed yourself, but
I
okay.
mean, yeah, it's all good.
Now everybody knows where to go. I grew up in a small town. In Indiana. I live in a small town. This is a small town episode. You wrote a
Mhm.
book about a small town. What's the small town's name?
Eston, Maine, which is fictional, though it does borrow a few elements here and there from like Gray, my original hometown. But yeah, very fictionalized. I took some creative liberties for legal reasons. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Did a town sue you?
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them.
Just the whole town.
Yeah.
Is that with an E or an A, Gray? What
With an
spelling?
A,
Oh,
Gray. Yeah.
which one? I forget. Which one is the American spelling and which one is the English spelling?
Americans with the A.
It's with the A. Okay.
Although, like, I'm constantly correcting people when they use an E, but I'm like, maybe the E is also correct. I have no idea.
I don't know, Ethel. It's a you could say it's a gray area. Uh,
Yes.
only if you're like a bad human.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the name Eston?
I was just sort of playing around with a lot of names. In the beginning of the drafting process, I was just calling it Gray, which is like the town where I went to high school. And that's where sort of like the inspiration for the cemetery comes from because it's right off the interstate, which is sort of a big part of the book. But the name Eston itself, I was just playing around with like the word East Coast.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was doing a lot of research into like different surnames around the area that are like regional based, and Eston stood out to me for whatever reason. I just thought it sounded nice.
You could have just called it Gray with an E. You can't see you
Maybe,
then.
yeah.
No, I like
Yeah.
Eston. It's a great town name.
Yeah,
Did you do a lot of exploring in the woods in Gray?
I did actually. Like I mentioned, the cemetery in Gray is literally right off of the interstate, right off of I-95, which I always found kind of weird. It's just like it's not a busy town at all. It's like they call it the crossroads of Maine. It's very people pass through it, and no one goes to Gray. So it's weird that right off the interstate, there's just a cemetery right there. And there is some woods beyond the cemetery there, but it's not as like dense or thick as the one in Eston in the book. Um, but I was just imagining when I was kind of using that as a basis for the town of Eston in Let the Woods Keep Our Bodies. It was like, why would they put a cemetery there if they weren't like building it around something almost? Like, what if they were building it around something supernatural or weird, some kind of strange occurrence?
Yeah.
So that's sort of where that came
So
from.
did the cemetery or the highway happen first?
I
Like,
assume the cemetery happened first.
yeah,
And
okay.
yeah, because there's some like old gravestones there. Like I went on a field trip there. They bring like little kid field trips to the cemetery in Gray. That's like the only thing to do
What
there.
else are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's like the only thing that we can do in Gray. But I remember going on a field trip there, and there's like gravestones from 1600s, 1700s, like really, really old. So I assume that was there first, and the highways were probably previously like horse trails or something.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you will find anything spooky in the woods? What's the strangest thing you found?
Oh man. Well, in Maine, there's tons of like old like rock walls and such that are just decrepit and covered in moss and falling apart and crumbling. There's tons of old like staircases that you'll find in the woods that are just made of stone and don't lead anywhere, which are really cool.
What the hell?
Yeah, I know, it's very strange because it's like, colonial times, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
They were building stuff all over the place, and now they're just stayed there.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
I would not walk up those.
No, they would probably fall.
Oh yeah, I was thinking real spooky things like you walk up, you
Or
can't
you'd be
walk up.
transported somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Much like I mean, there's some spooky magical entryways in this book.
There are indeed. Yes.
I assume you haven't found I assume you haven't found something like that in the woods in real life.
I have not. No.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. It's probably out there.
Yeah. I think in my case, I'm trying to think of things I've found in the woods. Well, I found a really spooky video that we recently uploaded to YouTube in the woods. Yeah, if you folks want to check that out on the Ghoulish YouTube, it's called a found footage. So check that out. I've also found many boxes of sunglasses, which still baffle me. Just I don't know if like a sunglasses truck got hijacked, but
maybe.
Yeah, I still think about that. Not too spooky though. Although we didn't put them on, it's really possible they will like they live glasses almost.
Oh yeah. Get some mind control going. Yeah.
That would be cool. What do you know about mind control?
I mean, not much.
Same.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Scott Adlerbilg last night on the podcast, and he had just finished reading your book and he loved it. And he's in the process of doing a review, but he said, kudos to you for being someone in Maine and writing about a small town in this genre. So it did bring a good like question to mind, like being from Maine and in a small town, like will you deal this at all about like, oh, don't like cross into like Stephen King territory? Like it's like a pressure, like, oh, he's done it all.
There definitely is a little bit. Like, obviously I've read tons of Stephen King, and a lot of people here have, just because, regional pride type of thing, even if they're not necessarily super into horror, most people have read some amount of Stephen King's work. But yeah, I was definitely wary of like drawing too much inspiration from him a little bit, because I didn't, I don't want to see derivative or just because I'm from Maine, so I'm gonna write Stephen King inspired horror because that's the only thing we can never do. But yeah, I mean, I think some degree of inspiration is obviously fine, and I think I draw like some of the writing style that I use in that book from Stephen King quite a bit, like the more straightforward language type of thing. I think that's a way where I kind of draw most of my inspiration from. But yeah, I mean, there definitely is like slight cosmic stuff that I drew sort of the vibe from, but I wanted to do my best to be like different enough.
Yeah. How I'm terrible with geography. So how close to would Gray be to like his town?
Yeah, so Stephen King lives, or his house, the one that everyone knows about, is in Bangor. Bangor is about an hour and a half north of me. It is closer to a couple of like college towns up there. University of Maine, Orono is up there. It's again in the middle of nowhere.
Have you done the trip up to like take a photo in front of the Bat Gate?
Yeah, absolutely.
The coolest gate of all time.
It's such a cool house in general. Like it's just such a cool brick like Victorian mansion, and then like the Bat Gate is just so cool.
Do you think he actually lives in that house at this point? Or is it just
Probably
like
not.
No? If people were constantly taking photos of themselves in front of my house, I would just quietly move out.
I think that's exactly what he and his wife did. Like, I don't think they actually live there. Apparently they have like their own foundation nonprofit thing that they say is based out of there. But I heard talk a little while ago about them doing, or like thinking of doing like a writers program where like they'll have like,
Yeah,
residencies and such in the house. That would be dope as hell. I would.
I read about that too. That would be
Yeah.
pretty awesome. What would you do? Like, I mean, you would obviously want to do that, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, who
100%.
wouldn't want to do that? I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
sure they would get like a million applications, but it would
Just
be really
show up
cool.
now and wait in line.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? I'm waiting in line for when they finally announce this.
Yes.
How would you pitch this book to somebody who had no idea what it was?
Yeah. I would say it's very along the lines of David Lynch's uh exploration of small town horror.
Hmm.
A lot of David Lynch's work, like, obviously Twin Peaks, but also Blue Velvet, Inland Empire, tons of other stuff that he's done are very like sort of fascinated with the small town America where it's peaceful and idyllic on the surface, but then like there's something off. And then when that something off gets explored deeper, it uncovers like a deeper realm of mystery or like evil in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that suburban rot.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that shit.
I've never been a big Twin Peaks guy. I did season one and I thought it was pretty cool. But man, I cannot get through season two to save
Season
my
two is
life.
rough. It's not good.
Yeah. I think I've
um
made it like two episodes into season two multiple
yeah,
times. I just can't do it.
it's really rough because David Lynch wasn't even directing for the vast
Right.
majority of it. So it's just garbage. But
I
the
want to
first
get
two
through
are,
it
yeah,
because I'm told season three is insane.
it's wild. Yeah,
I
because yeah, they let him go and just do whatever basically on Showtime. So they, yeah, just
I've
like go
I,
free.
I've been tempted just to skip season two, just go into season three. Maybe
Honestly,
do
you could.
yeah. Maybe I'll do like a
Like,
Wikipedia recap.
yeah, I would watch like I think it's the last episode of season two that David Lynch comes back to direct. I would
Hmm.
maybe watch that one and then go into season three.
Gotcha. Now, Blue Velvet though, it's one of my all-time favorite
I
movies, and
love Blue Velvet.
there's definitely a lot of aspects of that into Let the Woods. I mean, just like the DIY sleuth aspects of it all.
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's
I
really
love
cool.
it. It's such a fun trope. Um,
Yeah.
and like it definitely is like a trope, but it's just so fun. Like I love
Yeah.
experimenting with that stuff.
I'm not a huge fan of like detective stories
Yeah,
when the detective like that's their job, but I'm a
yeah,
fan of books and movies when someone is so like fascinated by something and they
yeah,
can't get it out of their head that they just become a detective because they have to
yeah,
know what's
yeah.
going on. That is interesting to me.
Same, yeah. And it becomes like an obsession.
Hmm.
It's really, really fun to write.
And I think it's way more difficult to do that like in a big city just because it's so vast. But with a
Yeah,
small town, I mean, it's usually pretty confined. You know the cast already. You know who to like ask. You know able to go and look
right.
around. So it's not like clues being erased next to dumpsters and alleyways. I mean, you
Right.
have the setting.
Yeah, yeah. Like you can have a good old library research scene. Um,
Yes.
which is the best. Like in a city, it wouldn't have the same impact, I don't think, you know? Like I'm sure it's been done before and I'm sure that people have done it well, but I feel like
The
it's harder.
the only example I can even think of like a good old fashioned library scene in a city would be the movie Seven. Have you seen Seven?
It's been a while since I've seen Seven.
Yeah, there's a pretty good library scene. I'm only thinking of that because I just rewatched it a few days ago. But
Hmm.
beyond that, I mean, I don't know. Do cities have libraries?
Probably not. I
Who's to
don't know.
say? Who's to say?
Nowadays, I have no idea.
Uh, if you live in a city and you have a library, no, you
Let us
don't.
know. Yeah. Let us know.
You'll lie. Yeah, but you don't. You'll think of Wikipedia.
Yep.
All right. So what is, I mean, I know, but what is like the central mystery in this book that is driving the protagonist to be a detective?
Yeah, yeah. So sort of twofold. The obviously the main premise of Let the Woods Keep Our Bodies is that a girl named Tate Mulder goes missing. And she's like this, sort of like the Laura Palmer of the story in that she's like a popular girl, 18-year-old, who is seemingly perfect. and then just disappears one day. So that is sort of the primary mystery that Leo, our protagonist, is exploring. But then the book is told through a before sequence and an after sequence, alternating chapters. And in the before chapters, it's before Tate's disappearance, when Leo and Tate are getting to know each other and their relationship sort of develops. And in those chapters, we see Tate sort of her obsession with the town and its lore sort of devolve into a sort of corruption of who she is in a way.
You ever have anybody vanish in gray? Any like, oh God, that person just up and disappeared? Any of those? Anything like that?
Not to my knowledge, but maybe it just was wiped from my mind,
Maybe you vanished.
Maybe I do not exist. Who knows?
I mean, no one exists. What does that even mean? It's all a simulation.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was always like deeply fascinated by like, I think there was a book that came out of a kid who finds out they were abducted by seeing the photo on like the milk carton. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like the missing kid photos.
Yeah, I forget what book that was, but I don't know. Just thinking about disappearances makes me think of that. But that's not what happens in this book.
No.
We're not going to say what happens in this book because that would be defeating the purpose of
yes.
trying to get people to buy it. Let's talk about the front cover, which I'm going to hold up for those who are watching on probably just Patreon. I don't know. The video thing is a new thing with the podcast. I'm told people like video. I don't know why. So I'm trying to do that.
Nice.
Yeah. Visual components.
Visual media. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got Ryan. What the hell is his name? Ryan Caskey? Is that
Ryan Caskey? Yep.
Yeah. My friend Zach recommended him because Zach Chapman, he does a lot of comic books. He writes comics, so he commissions a lot of comic book artists. And I guess he had built with Ryan, aka the Spooky King.
The Spooky King, yeah.
The coolest name of all time.
Love it.
So he recommended him. And I think he was the first person we hit up about this cover.
I think he was. He was like one of the first ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe we had like a list that I sent you, and maybe you chose him, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think because I went through and like looked at people's Instagrams for a while, and I saw Ryan's work, and I was like, yeah, that's the one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he could draw well.
Yeah.
But holy hell, I love just like the red and blue combo of this cover.
It's so dope. It's so cool. Yeah. And I love that, like, I fed him some ideas that I had, but he took it and like made it into an actual thing that works. And it's so cool. I'm so happy with it.
Yeah, you sent some reference photos. Who was it? The Strange Little Kids? The Stranger Things kid.
Stranger Things, yeah.
Yeah. What was her name? Sadie Sink?
Sadie Sink, yeah. I'm that's sort of like the vibe that I was going for Leo's character, the protagonist. Just, that redheaded, fiery personality.
Yeah. I mean, I think he did a great job of like slightly taking that reference, but also making it someone unique.
Yeah.
I've had the issue in the past where I've given like a reference to a famous person and then it's identical.
And then it's just them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he did a great job of using like those elements to create something completely new. I love how he does incorporate the spooky doorway that we hinted at.
Yeah.
Is that how you envision it looking?
It is very much. Yeah. It's very much like what I was picturing, like that sort of framed by stone in the woods. It's very cool. I like it a lot.
What about, I mean, this book also has that we have to talk about cryptids. It has some cryptid stuff going on. What's your favorite cryptid?
I love Mothman, obviously. The Jersey Devil is very fun.
Yeah. We just got this book in at the bookshop called Mothman Baby, which is pretty cool. It's like a child's book that you open it and it has like the pop-ups.
Oh, it's like a kid's book? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
cute.
it's pretty
I like
cool.
that.
It's pretty
That's
cool.
really cute.
I had this one woman in yesterday with a kid, and they were sitting on the ground, just like reading it together.
Oh,
The kid loved it. They did not buy it though.
oh. Come on, man.
I know. They went through every single pop-up in that book.
Bro.
Does Maine have any like regional specific cryptids?
Well, sort of. There's like for spoilers reasons, I won't go into it too much, but there is
Yeah.
one in Maine called the Black Dog,
Mhm.
um, which essentially is like this uh huge hulking canine figure who like can guide lost hikers back onto trails if they wander off too far, and stuff like that. It's very cool. It's supposed to be like an omen that the person who sees it is going to die. Very
Yeah.
fun.
I know I kept in my edits, I kept suggesting you change that dog to a small dachshund, but you kept just ignoring those edits, which I found pretty rude.
That would be perfect though.
There's a lot of dogs in this book. You have a dog, and
Yes,
the
there is
Leo
a
has a
dog
dog.
right here. This is Boo.
Wow, Boo
Can't
is
really
really
see her.
calm and
Yeah.
behaving. How did that happen? I don't have dogs that just remain calm.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a good girl. But yeah, I love dogs.
Yeah.
There's probably gonna be a dog in almost everything that I write. But yeah, I really liked incorporating the dog's name in this book is Sebago, which is the name of a lake not too far from here. Um, and I sort of took a little bit of inspiration from Boo, my dog in real life, to make her, and I was glad that I could like give her a bigger part of the story,
Yeah.
which becomes evident as the book goes on.
Now, something just hit me. You
Mhm.
talking about that dog. I may be misremembering it, but does the dog in this book skate build at some point?
No.
No?
There's one part Leo is skateboarding downtown and Sebago is running alongside her.
I think what I'm thinking of, I think I might have made a note in the comment in the edits, like what if that dog could skate build?
Oh yeah.
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, yeah. She needs her own skateboard.
I've been watching a lot of TikToks of dog skate building, and
Oh my
I
gosh,
love it.
yeah.
It's
I've
also
seen like the bulldog who
yeah,
just like skateboards himself. It's so cute.
yeah. It's also this dachshund one that skate builds, and it's pretty awesome. I just how do you train a dog to do that? I don't know.
I know, yeah.
I don't know. I can't even train a dog to be quiet during a podcast, which is why I do this
Right.
at the bookshop now. You got to be cautious with using too many dogs, though. You might become a Dean Koontz.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
is true. That is true.
You think you might write a book about someone who like communicates with a dog telepathically?
Maybe, maybe someday.
Didn't I think Dean Koontz
Possible.
did that? I don't know.
I think so. It sounds familiar.
I haven't read one Dean Koontz book. I don't know
It's
why
been a
I don't
while.
know why I'm talking shit about Dean Koontz. I know nothing about him.
Yeah.
Was there anything else about this book specifically you think we should bring up? I mean, it's difficult to get into too much middle without spoiling things. This is a mystery novel,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you don't want to get too deep into the plot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess another part of it, spoiler free, that I can talk about a little bit is like the coming of age aspect of it.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't really set out for this book to be a coming of age novel when I first started writing it, but I think, I started plotting out the story when I was like 18 or 19, like the same age as the main characters in the book. And I think even just like being a product of who I was at that time made it a coming of age novel, even
Yeah.
if that's not really like what I set out to do with it. Which I think is kind of interesting because, like, from the ages of 18 to 21, however long it took me to write the book, you're changing so much as a person. And, like, you look back at things that you've made from 6 months ago, a year ago, and you're like, oh, God, yeah, that's not very good.
Yeah. I think with any book that you write, it's always a reflection of what you will at the time that you wrote it.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
look at Stephen King and Cujo.
Yes.
Great
Yeah,
dog book.
yeah, yeah.
I think when you pitched this book to us originally, you had described it as You used a subgenre name that I don't even think is around now. New adult? Is that still a
New
thing?
adult. I don't know. Like it used to be a bigger thing. And I remember there was a lot of drama between like what's the difference between young adult and new adult and regular
Hmm.
adult? Because like that doesn't mean anything. Anyone can read whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't matter. Um,
Yeah, I never quite knew what it meant exactly.
I think it's just like people who wrote young adult, but then didn't want only teenagers to read it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's I don't think many people use that term in the industry very much anymore.
No, that and also that was around for a while. It was alt lit, I think.
Oh yeah.
That was like around for a month and then people were like, nah,
Yeah, no,
it's not gonna stick.
yeah, no, like people who are writing genre fiction but don't want to not call it literary fiction. Like,
Yeah. What do you think the next wave's gonna be? What's the next phenomenon of this genre?
oh, man, like, ah, I don't know. Like, there's tons of weird stuff all the time. Like, there was all
Yeah.
that drama with what cozy horror is.
Would you call this cozy?
I think it could be cozy at times. Like
So
some of
so do
the
I.
yeah, like the library scenes I think are kind of cozy. But yeah, I mean, anything could be cozy horror. I feel like if it makes you feel all warm and cuddly inside.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Perfect example. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, this is going live this week.
Mhm.
Right now, as we speak, over 1,000 people are receiving this book just from a subscription service alone.
Yeah.
I mean, we were lucky enough to get this book included with the Night Realm subscription package, which is pretty awesome. Did you know
Really
about
cool.
them ahead of time? Did you know about
Yeah.
the company? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been following them on Instagram for quite a while, and I've been following Sadie Hartman separately for quite a while as well. And I just like I'd always like seen them include books in their subscription boxes, and I was like, oh man, that would be so cool to do that someday.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and it was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, I was really stoked when they told us that they would want to include it. I have to imagine this incredible front cover helped a lot. Just
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
mean they don't read the books ahead of time. They usually just
right.
go by the pitch and the front cover. I think they do a lot of like selecting because if you notice the other book that was included with this was the that
Something on
Elizabeth
the hill.
handbook, yeah, and the cuddles kind of vibe together well, so I
They
wonder
do.
if they like think about that ahead of time, and both of them take place around like autumn, I believe, so that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, I think they definitely do because then like, you can make the whole box very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah,
Because the covers go nicely together.
which goes well on like Instagram, I guess.
Right.
If it
All the
doesn't look good,
bookstagrammers out there.
if it doesn't look good on Instagram, it's
Then it doesn't matter.
no
Yeah.
one wants it. It doesn't
Oh.
exist. All right. How can folks find you online?
Yeah, so people can find me on Twitter/X, whatever the fuck we're calling it. LEM Roy there. Same handle on Instagram. And then I'm also on Blue Sky, EM Roy. Yeah, I think that's it. Is that everything?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know. I said yeah. I don't know what you have.
I think
Might
that's
be.
everything. Yeah.
All right. Any last final thoughts about the book or small towns or anything? Dogs, perhaps?
Um, I don't know. Well, the I'm working on a new novella right now,
Hmm.
which I was hoping to get done over the summer, but that didn't happen. But probably going to be finishing it this month, hopefully, and that is set not so much in a small town, but it's in Portland, and it has a lot of like the same sort of small town feel to it, even though it's like a very different genre. It's like 90s punk rockers type of thing.
Yeah, we've talked about this. It
Yeah,
sounds great.
I'm very excited to wrap that up. Um, it'll be fun. Yeah, that has like sort of the same small town. Something weird is going on, slightly cosmic, maybe a
Hmm.
little more cosmic than Let the Woods Keep Our Bodies. It's been very fun to write.
Maybe not so cozy.
Maybe not so cozy. Yeah.
What's the opposite of cozy?
Um,
Uncomfortable.
cold, cold and clammy.
Clammy, gross.
Yeah.
All right. Could we see Boo one last time?
She's sitting on
Oh,
her
she's
bed on the
gone.
floor now. She's abandoned me. Yeah.
Not a fan of podcasts. I understand.
Uh,
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was great. And that was E.M. Roy talking about small towns. Go buy Roy's novel, Let the Woods Keep Old Bodies. Out now through Ghoulish Books. You can pick it up at ghoulish.lip. That's right, we got rid of the com. Now it's LIP. It's spooky that way. Don't you think so? Don't you think so? Rate and review the podcast. Any place you can do that. Tell your spooky friends about us. If you want to watch video portions of the podcast, you can watch those on Patreon. Patreon.com/ghoulish-books. Check it out.
Live spooky, die spooky.
Rest in peace, Mac.